do him like Michigan State did Mel Tucker. You know, set that man up like that. I mean, get him in a situation to have to go talk to somebody and do this and do that. But realize they paid this dude all his money and they wasn't getting the results they thought they was going to get right away. And now here they're trying to set up certain situations to say, well, the only way we don't owe him is he get caught up in some kind of scandal. Well, now you brought the scandal to him. They did him dirty, man.
You
and
think they did it?
I'm standing on it. Yes. Michigan State set Mel Tucker up for this thing that just happened.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Now we gotta make the pivot right now in 2070Q. Let's go. Hold on a second. Got to move stuff around a little bit because I talk a lot with my hands. Why? Because they didn't want to pay him.
They didn't want to pay him, and they felt like it felt like the program was mid to low level. Power 5, wasn't going to win a national championship, wasn't going to be in contention for a Big Ten championship, what they hadn't been in the last 2 years since Mel had been there. Mel's just a coach doing his job, man, trying to teach young men how to be men. That's what he's put in place for. So I guess the wins wasn't coming fast enough for them, and they felt
so
like.
So you think they concocted? You think they concocted a harassment story?
They did. There's no way you're gonna tell me anything different. That's the only way they could have got that money back from him by doing that. Only way.
If there's a clause in the contract,
there's a clause in the contract,
there's a character clause,
right? The clause in the contract, if you get caught up in any kind of BS, they don't owe him not a dime. They can fire him.
Why does he keep changing his story then? When they did the investigation,
what do you mean? He keeps back and forth because they put her there to begin with. He don't know that.
So you think he was set up? It was a plant, and yet we don't even need to get into what he was doing over the phone. People can use their imagination. That's not grounds or cause for dismissal.
What do you mean?
If he's on the phone and he's talking explicit and doing,
she went after him.
I don't know, man. I'm not saying that's a baseless claim. Your contention is because of what they paid him, and they did give him a substantial amount of money, but again, there's no guarantee that they have to pay him out every dollar. Okay.
If this never came up, they had to pay him every dollar.
If it never came up, but it came up because they investigated.
But it came up because they put her in a situation to talk to him, to be there, to communicate, with him.
Man,
you would never see it, Rich. I see it. They did. They set the man up.
So you're basically saying they set him up because he had $80-something million left on his contract.
And they did not want to pay him because he was not national championship contention.
Okay, so what about making false statements to investigators and misleading them with certain facts and locations of where?
Is
that all semantics?
Because now you at the point where you're trying to save your ass. You're trying to not be in any trouble. Like you're trying to not do any of this stuff, right? So you want to save your job. You want to save your money. So you're going to do whatever you got to do because in your mind you did something wrong. But how does this chick come about? How does she come around? How has she got access to Mel Tucker? How is this chick just always popping up in certain places?
So he denied sexually harassing the young lady, right?
Right.
He acknowledged what he did over the phone, okay, whatever. And they were in a romantic relationship and had consensual, quote, phone sex. So she said his romantic interest in her was completely one-sided, and she had tried to set boundaries multiple times during their year-long business partnership. And I say it I say it in quotes like that because now you've got a classic he said, she said. And if the school's saying he's violated school policy, okay, no. I'm not saying, I'm saying what the school is saying. You're doing this.
Of course,
to lean back like Fat Joe. Okay.
I get it. The school is behind all of this, man. I'm standing on that.
Yeah, and that's your right.
I'm going to stand on that.
Listen, that's your right, but I can tell you this. Not that but if you don't have eyewitness or eyeballs and you're talking about sexual harassment cases, what does it boil down to? Who's more credible?
How could you be sexual harassment when you're talking to somebody on the phone?
I'm not. You can be harassed talking to someone on the phone. You can be threatening in a
They
tone, and
needed
that can
they
be
needed any
determined
little
harassment.
they needed any little thing. They put her up to all of that shit, man.
Man, that's a wild, wild claim.
I'm
Now, I
telling
will
you.
say this to your credit, you did say the woman that was kidnapped, I think in Alabama, made it up.
Yeah, I was the first one to say that.
Yeah,
Oh, look what happened.
and
She
I
wanted to go spend
remember
some
when you
time.
texted,
She wanted to go spend some time with our side dude, so she set this up.
and I remember you text me, it's a crock of shit. She made it up, and I'm like, yeah, the big man might be. I don't know, man. It's you look at everything that's going on now with Michigan State. I mean, who's going to hire this guy again? By the way,
They screwed him, man. They screwed a good man, man. They screwed a good man, and it sucks. It sucks to look at. It sucks to watch happen. It just sucks all the way around, man.
so
Mel Tucker's a good dude.
let me ask you one more question or get your thoughts on something. When you're in that type of position and you're making that type of money, don't you also have to be very careful? So, for instance, if you're
Absolutely.
talking with someone on the phone, you probably want to have one hand on the phone and maybe your other hand held up high, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to use judgment.
Use judgment and record all of your conversations. Gotta cover your ass, man.
Did you do that when you were a player?
No, I didn't. I didn't do anything that was somebody. I didn't come across anybody that was going to ruin my career. I didn't just let anybody in.
Yeah.
I wasn't that trusting of everybody. I just wasn't. I didn't know why they was around me. I didn't know what their agenda was. None of that.
That's when you were a rookie?
That's when I was a rookie all the way up to when I finished.
Yeah, but you told me you can weed those guys out pretty fast.
Yeah, you can weed them out pretty quick. They're easy. Fast talkers, you know, they come around only in certain situations, certain times. If I'm out, and every time I'm out, I see somebody and they're always trying to sell me on trying to create a nightclub or do this. So this is what you do, because I barely come out here. And every time I'm out here, you out here. So you out here every night. And just get away from them type of people, man.
What's the I want to go down this rabbit hole for a second. What's the craziest, idea / bullshit scheme or proposition anyone ever came to you with? Like, hey, I got some swampland in Florida.
Putting a microchip in the kids.
Wait.
Let's get a few doctors on board. Let's get, put some thin, like smaller than a grain of salt microchip and injected in the kids so we stop having these abductions.
So like a
Where
track.
we always know where your kid is. Hell no. You think somebody's gonna prove that? No.
Was this a day meeting or out in a club bar type of meeting?
It was like I think it was a day meeting. It was a day meeting with a bunch of legit looking people.
And you don't have to disclose too much, but were you with your agent, a lawyer? You went by yourself? Were you with other teammates?
It was me and another player. Me and another player was around at the time. It wasn't just me by myself. Like, this is the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like, why would anybody approve this? Why would any medical anybody approve foreign objects going into the bodies of people and have to be there for life? And you can't even get it out because it's smaller than a grain of salt. But it tells you where someone is.
What year was what? How many years?
This was in 2000. This was the year after we won the Super Bowl.
2008.
Yeah.
So you got the juice. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Making the rounds.
Let's try to do
book
this.
Tour, TV tour. Being a bouncer on Law and Order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay. So
did you ever see it?
I told you I saw that episode.
Oh,
I was like, look at his acting chops.
Yeah.
So, how long was that meeting? This stuff fascinates me. How long was that meeting?
It's like an hour and a half. They showed all this different stuff, and like it sounded pretty cool at the time. But then I started thinking, like, who's going to approve of this? like doctors can get paid like $300 to do the work, and then we would get so much of that, so much of a percentage of that 300 for us, microchipping and the technology needed to keep. Man, I'm like, this is just not gonna work. I'm just, when this is over, you know what I mean? That was the dumbest one.
And when you walked out with your teammate, who turned around first and said, "Fuck these guys talking about"?
Like, what was that? Like, what was that? What are we gonna eat at, man? But yeah.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it was all kind of crazy stuff, man.
I wonder if those guys are floating face down in the Hudson right now.
Maybe, man, because they was definitely trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
Oh man. All right. That's a great story. I can just imagine you sitting there. Were you taking notes?
No, I wasn't taking no notes. When they started talking about what they wanted to do, I was just like done with it.
That's why you always have to have the fake call lined up. You know that. You pull one of the, I got to take this. I'm sorry. And you just.
No, I didn't mind sitting there listening because I didn't mind sitting there listening. It was on a Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, hold on. I'm still here. Go ahead. I'm still here. Go ahead.
It was on a Tuesday like afternoon. It wasn't in a rush. We didn't have practice that day, and it was a lunch
Wow.
that was set up. Yeah,
That's crazy.